Hello and welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Ty Johnson, and we have an exciting show for you today. Our first guest is Miss Terry Matthews from Jaden's Voice, and she's going to tell us all about Jaden's Voice and what that encompasses. Terry, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just jump right into it. Tell me about your agency, how it got started, and your passion for what you do.
So Jaden's Voice is an organization that I created. It's named Jaden's Voice because my son Jaden was diagnosed with autism when he was about 3. He's 7 today. And through my journey with Jaden, I realized that we were able to get services that unfortunately not all people were able to get. One, because of resources, where things are located, and a lot of the times the cost. So unfortunately with us discovering those things, unfortunately, but fortunately, God gave me the vision to create Jaden's Voice. So we work to enhance the lives of children that are impacted by autism, and we specifically service the underserved.
Your agency or your passion, a lot of people, myself included, may not know all the intricacies of what autism is. We hear the word,
Right.
We might even see a commercial about it, but could you tell us exactly what autism is to our audience, our general audience who may not know? They've heard the word, but they may not know exactly what that means.
Well, uniquely enough, most people have probably seen the puzzle piece, right? Even in our logo, there is a silhouette of Jaden, and in that silhouette, he's tossing a puzzle piece. And that's what it actually is. Autism is a puzzle piece. Although it has some sort of a definition, and we'll talk a little bit about that, it's not clearly defined what it is. Autism is a spectrum. It ties into a lot of intellectual disabilities. Typically, autistic children, you see, they have repetitive behaviors, they have communication barriers, and when I say spectrum, it is that because there are some autistic children that are atypical in a sense of they can go outside, ride a bike, play with friends, and have some communication. Their behaviors or how they communicate might be a little bit awkward or unique. Sometimes they don't understand what are comfortable social barriers. Like, you know, Jaden is one who walks up to people and rubs his face on their forearms. That's not normal, typical behavior. I don't know, for some kids nowadays it could be, but that's not your typical behavior that you see in a 7-year-old. The other thing is there are kids who are more challenged on the spectrum where they're still in diapers at times, so they have issues with toilet training. They have almost no communication. Some of them have no communication at all. Some of them have limited communication. Then you have individuals who, from a learning capacity, they don't have the ability to go to school, follow some sort of structure. And I'm giving you layman terms about it. I mean, if you Google autism, there's this list of stuff that comes up. But what we do know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, there's not just a clearly defined way of what autism is. It's typically the behaviors of a child that help indicate if this child is on the spectrum. So.
Now, how did you segue into, I know you said you saw underserved families, but did you wake up one day with an epiphany and say, hey, I'm going to start Jaden's Voice, or was it a process?
It's a unique testimony. I wish I could say it was just given to me to just wake up and say, I want to start Jaden's Voice. I know this is television, so we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to give you the short version of it. When I was in church, I operated as a senior level executive. Jaden wasn't conceived yet, and I had a young woman approach me and say, you know, hey, I need you to help me in reference to starting something. I was known in the business world for being able to start businesses. I was very successful at it. I had a senior level corporate position. I knew the who's who. So when she approached me, I said, well, where do you need me to sign up? Here's the money. What do you need me to do? I don't have a whole lot of time, you know, and I kind of rushed through it. And that was the first time I'd actually even heard the word of autism. Being a Cal Berkeley grad, I thought I was smart, but I really didn't know what the word meant. Fast forwarding through that, I have Jaden. And once I had Jaden, and he was normal developing, smiling on time, you know, cooing and doing the normal things on time. And then when he was almost 2 to 3 years old, he has something what I would consider regressive autism. He just changed completely. It was like he had died but was still alive. He had lost all of his language. He began to do a lot of those repetitive behaviors I talked about earlier. I thought he was going to be some super organized kid. He's like lining stuff up all perfectly, putting his toys all together. And that's actually a sign that indicates they're called red flags, that there are things that we should be looking at. And then he had a high tolerance of pain. He had fallen down and had this gash in his hand that any average child would be complaining and crying about it. And I took him to the pediatrician and I said, you know, something's going on. You know, he's still not really speaking. He's changed since that day we've talked. And at that point, you know, I knew right then that something was wrong. So she ushered me into speech therapy. We chatted with the speech therapist. People came out to my home. And I will never forget that when they were walking out the door, they said, there are red flags. And we can't technically diagnose him, but he needs to get to a pediatrician. So we get Jaden to a pediatrician. It takes 8 months to get into the pediatrician. It's not an easy process. So that's kind of where Jaden's voice came about. But we get him to the pediatrician. Once we do that, it takes 3 months now to get a report back. That's about 48 pages in length.
Wow.
That you have to read and identify what's wrong with your child, right? And once I saw that in that process, and I remember looking at the forms and flopping through all the sheets going, what does this mean? And at the end, it was like, he's autistic. And at that point, I was driving, I'll never forget, and I had tears streaming down my face, one of those mommy moments, and you're thinking about, gosh, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently, if anything, you know? And what does this mean? And God had showed me the lady that I had bumped into church, and he had said, I tried to get your attention then. And then when I was 3 months pregnant, he said, in my spirit, you're going to have a special child. And, you know, I'm thinking as a mom, whoo, he's going to play football. It's this, it's that. And then I didn't hear that voice again until then when I was driving down the road. And I realized that God had called me to work with families and children, especially in this specific area of autism, so that they could have a voice and be heard. So I have a pretty loud voice.
That is wonderful. Now explain to me or to our viewers, what does Jaden's voice do during the course of a year? What type of events do you have?
We do a lot. I would say that most of the time, in reference to what we do, has a lot to bring more awareness to the community, especially our underserved community. We don't have a lot of resources available to the underserved community, and I think that it's unfortunate, but no child should not have an opportunity based upon somebody's income, right? And I know without a shadow of a doubt that doing things in reference to additional therapy, speech, behavior, occupational therapies, those types of things, awarding those types of things to these children early on, outside of what's standard or what's given, is the best for them so that they have the best outcome or best potential for their lives. And it's worked for Jaden. Jaden now speaks because of those additional therapies. He didn't speak at all. Now he can tell you kind of what he wants, what he doesn't want, and to kick rocks if he wants you to. So I don't know how much speech we should have given him. But what's been unique in this process or us dealing with the underserved community and having these events is to try to get them to understand what autism is. So we want to make it fun and we want to make it acceptable. So that's the point of having the events. It also brings awareness because sometimes, you know, autism or any type of, if you think about it, any type of disability or something like that, it's always looked at as sad and down. And we want to change the face of that. We also want to engage our community more than what they've ever been have been engaged at this level. Because if you see Susan G. Komen stuff on football players, you see them running around in pink. We all know that they haven't changed their uniforms. We know it's in reference to breast cancer. And we know, we have an idea of what breast cancer is and how to help and how to participate. And we don't know that for autism. So that's our purpose of having the events that we have, is just so that we can do those things.
Well, I know that your work and working with parents and the underserved community, probably many parents look at you and just, you bring a smile to their face and to the children as well. So I saw you on Facebook. That's how I first discovered you. And I just had to have you on this program. I think what you do is absolutely marvelous work. So take it from me, you're doing a marvelous work. So please continue to do what you're doing. And we just give out all kind of kudos to you and all those, your staff and whoever works with you as it relates to Jaden's Voice. And I look forward to hearing great things from you. And if there's anything I can do, please feel free to contact me, because I think what you do is absolutely stupendous.
Well, I thank you, and I appreciate that greatly. We always need help, and you're part of the community. And just having us on this show today is amazing, because I know we'll have an opportunity to talk to viewers, and viewers get to see who we are and why we exist. We're fairly new, but we're here to stay.
You're doing great work. And we're going to jump right to a commercial, and we'll be right back. Don't you go away. You stay right there.
The environment is my passion. Every day, I live for the outdoors and all of its challenges. That's why I enlisted in the Coast Guard. Now, I serve to protect the environment and defend my country. It's like I was born for this.
Were you born ready for a greater challenge? Find out at GoCoastGuard.com.
Training is about more than muscle. It's about inner strength. So I push myself. That's why I serve in the United States Coast Guard. I train with the best, a team that shares my drive and commitment. We collect intelligence, guard our shores against drug smugglers, and keep our waterways safe, because our nation expects more.
If you expect more, maybe you were born ready. Find out at GoCoastGuard.com.
All the preparation, the training, it all comes down to this.
To be a winning team, you have to work like a winning team.
We have a job to do out here today.
Some people think it's about muscle, but it's really about heart. A lot of heart.
My team depends on me.
And my team is 50,000 strong.
Looks like a lot of work's going into this.
Is what it feels like to be part of a team.
A winning team.
The Action Team.
Get in on the action at actionteam.org. Are you in?
Hello and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Todd Johnson, and we're sitting here. We just had Terry Matthews from Jaden's Voice, and now we're sitting here with Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I want you to kind of pick up where Terry perhaps may have left off, and could you first, let's backtrack a little bit. Could you kind of define for us the terms of what we're talking about, autism, and then some program things that you might want to share with our audience?
Sure, not a problem. Well, autism is a spectrum disorder, and what that means in sort of quick terms is that sort of with all the snow we having, and they say there's no one snowflake alike. Sort of with autism, individuals are the same way. No individual is actually the same. We do know it's a early brain developmental disorder that'll affect individuals around speech and language development, where they might exhibit some repetitive behaviors, like Terry mentioned earlier, and also be some verbal and nonverbal skills. What we found in sort of the last 40 years, it used to be considered a low incidence disorder, which means like intellectual disabilities, you didn't see a lot of people with it. But in the last 40 years, it has increased tenfold in terms of how many people are diagnosed with it. And what that means, it's coming back to at least 1 in 88 children in America have autism. Wow. It might be 1 in 54 boys, 1 in 252 girls. And right now, they're estimating about 2 million individuals are diagnosed with autism in our country and 10 million worldwide. Wow. So what we're finding is that the level of services is increasing, but we're also finding that a lot of communities aren't getting the information to start looking into sort of early intervention, early assessment, because really the best outcomes are if you sort of intervene on the behaviors and a disorder early. And so I think what we're doing with Jaden's Voice is really trying to create programs and outreach models to really educate parents, particularly in our communities, whether it's urban, suburban, rural settings, where we can tell them, hey, start looking for some red flags, start and teaching individuals how to access sort of the network in terms of early intervention and even the programs available in schools to support individuals with autism. And then we're also trying to educate people around some of the changes in diagnostic criteria, which happened last year, where autism used to be known as sort of a group of disorders, which included pervasive developmental disorder, NOS, where I would describe it as you had a touch of autism. Like you didn't meet the full criteria, but you might have showed some behaviors. It was childhood disintegrative disorder, which sort of what Terry described with Jaden, where all of a sudden you have this typically developing child and then they regress, and we don't know why. Then you have some individuals who are born autistic, where you might see them in terms of exhibiting sort of the nonverbal and verbal delays. And then you have those who are Asperger's, which are sort of high functioning individuals who may have some social skills weaknesses. And what we've done in terms of sort of the psychiatric and psychological and mental health community is they recently merged them all together under autism spectrum disorder. So you could have, you could fit one of those previous criteria and now be considered autistic. There's some contention because individuals with Asperger's view themselves as different, not necessarily autistic. So we're struggling with that transformation. The highly functioning individuals. And so we're working around this transition because a lot of people are feeling like, you know, we're not, like particularly those with Asperger's are like, we're not autistic, but we have our own identity. And so, and I think the other challenge with people in terms of identification is that you can have individuals with autism who could range from sort of high functioning, genius level IQs, you know, to those who are like intellectually disabled and everything in between. So I think a lot of people get confused when they might see some disorders, and it's sort of like when we grew up, it was that quirky person. It was that odd person. And you know, they might have said sit in the corner, they might have sent them somewhere or her somewhere, usually it was a boy. And then, but now we're like, well, if we're seeing this behavior, we need to get on it early. And I think what our research is showing that families and individuals sort of in underserved communities, they tend to get their children diagnosed maybe 3 to 5 years later than what you might see in other communities, which means that they're going years without treatment and intervention, and they're going years without a chance to sort of change and remediate behaviors. And so what we're looking to do with Jaden's Voice is sort of the impact sort of that statistic in terms of if we can educate communities, educate parents, and really make more services accessible. I think when Terry mentioned around the sort of the weaknesses in the system around, like, she had access to services, but what we find is a lot of children, and particularly in our urban communities and settings, don't, or it's a long waiting list, or they're waiting until they get into schools, like a public school system, which may be already overwhelmed with trying to complete evaluations, and then they're in another pipeline for services. So all of those delays really set these children up to not fulfill and meet their potential.
Well, somebody who might be viewing this program, who wants to get in touch with Jaden's Voice, what is your website address?
Sure. The website is www.jadensvoice.org, and the number is 1-800-825-8950.
You said that like you weren't sure. Okay. 8950. Okay,
yes.
okay.
Oh, 4950. So
4950.
1-800-825-4950.
4950.
Yes.
So, and they can just call that number or
They
you can
can
go
call.
on your website.
Yes, they can call. We have on the website, we're organizing it where people can actually register, and then you fill out a short survey, which gives us some background information, and it even allows us to start developing a sense and collecting data around what services and issues our community needs. So as you fill out the survey, you can describe your family, you can describe your child who has autism, you can describe what current services you have, and you can also describe what services you need so we can start working with you around identifying sort of resources and help you with making those connections.
What I had hoped, or what I hope to see, and this is my own little personal thing, you remember Lou Rawls?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
United Negro College Fund? That his face was associated with. I'm hoping we can get to the point one day where Terry Matthews' face is associated with autism, and she becomes that national or international spokesperson for that disability. I would like to see that happen.
And it's interesting because one of the unique aspects of Jaden's Voice that attracted me to the project was really the program called Minus Autism, and it was #MinusAutism. And one of the things that interested me was how to use or integrate social media into sort of not just communicating, but also really disseminating information, connecting to people, and really connecting to people in a very unique and different way. And one of the ways that Terry, in all her creativity, she's worked on producing a song, you know, which I thought, wow, this is another unique way to communicate about autism. And then using Facebook, Twitter, and really kind of connecting to people where they're at. So, you know, where we always think, you know, it's about literature, you know, a handout, a pamphlet, but sometimes it's about sort of just quick blurbs. It's about telling people, follow this link. It's about, hey, do you know? And, you know, and I think we do need to be conscious of checking in and really creating a face, and maybe a face more specifically for people of color around autism. Because I think we're talking to people in communities, whether they're Latino, Asian, African American, who are really just sort of still segregated by the disorder. And they think it's everybody else's issues but theirs.
Right. Now, you said you're creating a song, you guys?
Well, Terry created. She wrote, you know, a song, and I know she's in the process of getting it produced. But one of the things that it'll be featured on the website, I know for sure, when it's up and running. But we want to use it as a vehicle to, as like you say, a way to promote it in a very non-traditional way.
Wow, I look forward to seeing that, or hearing that, I should say. Now, in your particular work, could you give us what type of programs?
I'm on the Jaden's Voice project. I'm considered the medical director. So my primary responsibilities are to really do the program development and really to kind of think about what service delivery is going to look like from the time they walk into our door to the time they leave. And so we're really developing models around group interventions for not just children with autism, but their siblings, group interventions for parents to really provide support for them. We're looking at providing case management support and linkages so we can help people get support and services that they need. And we're also looking to provide more direct care, whether it's behavioral health, in addition to the medical therapies like speech, occupational therapy, and physical therapy.
Have you linked up Jaden's Voice with the church community? Is that?
You know, we're in the process right now of starting our community awareness campaign, and so we're looking for partners in every facet and aspect of the community. So be it faith-based institutions, educational, community-based organizations, schools, you know, networks.
Right, because I'm sitting here thinking that would be a great opportunity. I'd like you guys to come and maybe do something at my church.
Okay.
And have it so
And
the general public can come.
And we do workshops, and we're also working on a project called Autism Angels, where what we're looking at is creating and really working with people to create autism-friendly environments. So even working with faith-based institutions around how can you create a space for family and children who are autistic to sort of enjoy the environment and to be able to participate in the experience like everyone else.
Right. Well, I commend you as well as I did Terry, the work that you do. That you guys are foot soldiers. You're front line.
you.
And continue to do what you're doing. You're doing a very, very good work. And so I'm glad and pleased as punch to have you on the program today.
We're glad
I
you
can't
have
tell you
us.
how excited I am. And I hope this message, goes out and that it reaches the people for which it was intended. Because again, I'm one who doesn't know a lot about autism, but hopefully, in the days and months to come, through finding out more about Jaden's voice, I'll become more educated about it, so that maybe I might be able to share with somebody else who may think that, oh no, my child, and so, and we want to break through those barriers. And so I appreciate you, Dr. Lee. And I found that you're a native Philadelphian, so so that's why we clicked.
Exactly.
That's why we hit it off right away. Now again, I'm Ty Johnson. I'm your host. When one's on the right, another's on the left. When we reach towards the middle, we begin to bridge the gap. Until next time, love somebody and be nice to everybody. Bye for now.